Hello world, and welcome to the Hilltop Tabletop, where we are once again playing Warlord Games' excellent World War II tabletop skirmish game Bolt Action. And today we're going to be playing from their Tank War supplements, using the Armoured Platoon selector in that supplement. The forces for an armoured platoon differ from the standard reinforced platoon in that 3 armoured vehicles make up the core, and everything that accompanies them needs to either be a vehicle or be transported in a vehicle. And we are using also from here the tank battle scenario, which is an interesting scenario. It's a hybrid scenario of objectives and victory points. So there is a D6 objectives for players to set up, taking turns to place them 6 inches from the edges and 18 inches from each other. Then a die is rolled for table sides, and victory points are awarded, or victory is determined either by holding the majority of objectives, or if the objectives are equal, decided on victory points, 1 victory point being scored for each enemy unit destroyed. If there is a difference of 2 victory points, one side is a clear winner. If 1 or fewer, then the scenario is declared a draw. So that's what we're about today. This is our very 3rd video, so I do apologise once again in advance for what will undoubtedly be the amateur nature of this presentation. Let's take a look at the terrain. And here a peaceful, tree-lined avenue snakes its way through the countryside, crossing a murky brook via a stone bridge. A little bit of forest to the west and farm land on the eastern side, as viewed here from the north. American forces consist of a core squadron of Sherman tanks, one of which the American players will need to elect to be their command tank. These are veteran, and they have the radio network special rule, boosting their command bonus from +1 to +2 for their command tank. We have a regular first lieutenant with an adjunct in a jeep, and we have 2.5 ton transport trucks, one of which is upgraded with heavy machine gun, carrying a 5-man section with a SMG and bar, and a second similar 5-man section, along with a medium machine gun team, and a 10-man squad containing 1 SMG and 2 bars, along with a bazooka team. All of that infantry, and the trucks are regular. And the Americans have 12 order dice in the bag there. And the German forces consist of 2 Panther tanks and a Panzer IV, making up their core tank squadron, one of which the German players will need to select to be their command tank. All these tanks are regular. And then we have some infantry, Panzer Grenadiers riding in 2 Hanemags, arranged in 2 sections of 5, each with a SMG and 2 Panzerfausts, and a 10-man Panzer Grenadier squad with 4 Panzerfausts in it, the NCO with an SMG, and riding along in one of the 2 of those Hanemags will be the Oberleutnant with 1 extra man. And all those infantry forces are regular, making up 9 order dice for the Germans. And objectives have been rolled up. 3 objectives were rolled, and they've been placed here in the forest, centrally on the stone bridge and down the winding lane in the village. So we've rolled up, the Americans are coming on from the southern side of the table, the side with the large hotel on it there, and they've elected to bring on their entire force in the first wave, and they've nominated Sabine Sally, tank number 69, to be their command tank. And the Germans have also elected to bring on their entire force in the first wave, coming on from the northern side through the wheat fields, and they have nominated Panther R17 as their command tank. The Americans have drawn out the first die, and their bazooka team, having dismounted from their truck, as they approach the battlefield, now rapidly advance up behind the large hotel. And the second die is also American, and they advance their 2.5-ton truck up behind the lead bazooka team. On board that truck is the 10-man infantry squad. A German die is drawn, and a Hanomag comes barreling up through the wheat field, carrying the 10-man Panzer Grenadier squad towards the village. The next die is also German, and the squad inside the Hanomag go down. And the Germans continue their advance on their left flank through the eastern wheat fields. The other 2 smaller Panzer Grenadier squads aboard this Hanomag, along with the Oberleutnant. First shots fired as an American die is drawn. Sherman 68 advances down the murky brook, fires at the Hanomag in the wheat field, hitting it and setting it on fire. But the crew manage to extinguish the fire, and they survive the hit. Sensing danger, the Oberleutnant dismounts the Hanomag that was just hit and takes cover behind the stone wall. Another German die is drawn, and the 5-man Panzer Grenadier section, also passing their order test, dismount the singed Hanomag and take up a position alongside the stone wall. An American die is drawn, and the Deuce-and-a-half truck with the heavy machine gun on it barrels down the leafy laneway, opening up on the Panzer Grenadiers behind the wall, causing the first casualty of the game as 1 man goes down. The Americans draw the next die, and dismounting from their truck, the medium machine gun team take up a position inside the building. And now dismounting from the back of the truck, 5-man section into the ruinous building. The Americans continue their run of dice, and the second 5-man squad dismounts their truck, entering the ruinous building on the other side of the street, forming up around the objective. facing off with the advancing Germans. A German die is now drawn and passing their order test from the smoking Hanomag. The second 5-man section of Panzer Grenadiers disembark, forming a line behind their fellows. An American die is drawn and the 10-man infantry squad aboard their truck disembark, run around behind the hotel and approach the woods with the western objective inside it. Another German die is drawn and the Panther R-34 advances alongside the Panzer Grenadiers, firing through the leafy laneway, missing the Sherman across the way. An American die is drawn and the lieutenant comes driving up in his jeep to be with the infantry, seizing control of the village. And the American lieutenant kicks in the door of this ruin, advancing inside to be with his men. This ruin here, without the roof, we are playing as hard cover, same as this one here without the roof. The intact roofs, we've decided we'll play, these are buildings. So our village has a mixture of hard terrain and buildings. A German die is drawn and the command Panther rolls down the leafy avenue, taking a shot through at the side of the Sherman, barely missing it. American armour now rolling up the laneway, forming up with their infantry, not quite able to take a shot through at the German armour due to the 1-inch bubble around their truck. Shermans either side of the murky canal as the final American dice comes out of the bag for the round, and a Sherman pulls up in the lee of the hotel. Final die for the first turn is German, and the Panzer IV rolls on, firing through at the Sherman across the way, hitting it. The shot glances off its front glacis plate. And so, at the end of turn 1, we have the Americans here on the western side of the murky canal, forming up around the hotel, ready to bag the objective in the forest here as the German Panther drives past, ready to engage in a tank battle over the bridge as the infantry face off with each other to fight it out in the village. The first die drawn for the second turn is American. It goes to the Sherman here on the banks, firing back at the Panzer IV, but missing. The second die for turn 2 is also American, and the truck with a heavy machine gun rolls on up the road, spraying down at the German officer hunkered down behind his wall there, missing him as they drive by, and also blocking some lines of sight for these German tanks throughout our fellow here. A German die is drawn and the 10-man Panzer Grenadier squad disembark from their Hanomag, and they fire at the medium machine gun squad inside this building, scoring a hit and causing a casualty. An American die is drawn and the Sherman advances around the hotel, crushing the stone wall beneath its tracks and taking a shot at the Panther in the road, missing. A German die is drawn and the Hanomag advances on the building, pressing the attack against the medium machine gun team inside, spraying it down and finishing them off. An American die is drawn and the last remaining Sherman advances down the laneway, firing into the Panther, hitting it, causing superficial damage, setting it on fire, but the crew managed to douse the flames and stay on board. The next die is an American die, and the large infantry squad advance into the woods, there securing the objective.
And I apologise for the camera work here, but what has happened is that an order die has been drawn by the Germans. The Panzer Grenadier section behind the low stone wall has advanced, and they fire their Panzerfausts into the Sherman in the laneway, hitting it and immobilising it. Meanwhile, the Panzer Grenadier, armed with the assault rifle, has fired into the building, putting a pin marker on the squad inside and causing a casualty.
Next die is American, and the infantry section in the ruined building fire down out of the windows, putting a pin marker on the Hanomag. A German die is drawn, and the Oberleutnant snaps his men into action. He himself advances towards the 2.5-ton truck, puts a pin marker on it with his submachine gun. The Panther advances alongside him, firing at the Sherman in the road, but missing it. The Hanomag in the wheat goes on to ambush, and the second 5-man Panzer Grenadier section advance over the wall. One man fires his Panzerfaust into the side of the Sherman, erupts in flames, and the crew are forced to bail. An American die is drawn, and the lieutenant snap-twos his jeep, sending it to safety behind this building, while himself firing through the doorway at that section of Panzer Grenadiers, killing one man and sending the remaining soldier packing. Another American die is drawn, and the transport truck hidden behind its hotel goes down. A German die is drawn, and the Panther in the road attempts to trade blows with the Sherman in the courtyard of the hotel, but its shot goes astray. The Americans play their last die for the turn and run their bazooka team up to the corner of the hotel, speculating about that Panther in the road. The last die of turn 2 goes to the Panzer IV, which advances just to the edge of the murky brook, drawing a bead past the truck at the Sherman, but with the combination of movement and cover, can't find its shot. And so, at the end of turn 2, we have the Americans securing the western objective in the wood. One Sherman and one bazooka team facing off with the Panther in the road. The transport truck now suffers from the role of transport's rule, and being closer to the Oberleutnant than any Allied forces is removed, while the firefight in the village continues, seeking to secure the western objective. The first die drawn in term 3 is German, and we must show this die roll. It is a 1, and you must use your imagination to explain how this shot has missed at, I think, just about literally touching the Sherman there. Perhaps a dud shell. Now the Sherman has a chance to reply. A German die is drawn, and the second Panther activates, driving up onto the road, spraying down the ruined building with its hull machine gun, putting a pin on the squad inside, and hitting the Sherman beside the murky canal, causing an immobilisation result and a crew stun result from a massive damage penetration, but failing to destroy the tank. The next die drawn is American. The Sherman rotates its turret, replies to the Panther, hits it in the side, and knocks it out, leaving it a blazing wreck. Another American die is drawn, and the remains of the infantry section inside the ruined building open fire on the Panzer Grenadiers here in the open, putting a pin marker on them and causing one casualty. The next die drawn is German, and up on the hillock here, the Panzer IV goes on to ambush. An American die is drawn, and the infantry section in the ruins of this building continue to fire down at that Hanomag. Now has 2 pins on it. The next die is German, and the Hanomag responds, gunning the engine forward, spraying down the building with its medium machine gun, picking out 2 men inside the ruins. The next die drawn is American, and the bazooka team scramble from the far corner of the hotel, bringing their weapon forward towards the conflict at the bridge. The next die drawn is German, and the large Panzer Grenadier squad advances on the far left flank. Massed rifle fire, taking out the remnants of the infantry section on the first floor. The next die is German, and the Hanomag in the wheat, still suffering from 1 pin marker, fails its order test, reverses away from the enemies in its front arc before going down in the field. A German die is drawn, but with a pin marker on them and out of range of their Oberleutnant. This Panzer Grenadier section fails their order test and goes down. Next die drawn is German, and the Oberleutnant races with his adjunct up onto the critical bridge, claiming the centre objective from the Sherman that is just outside range. The next dice drawn is American, and the squad inside the forest go down, holding the western objective. The last die drawn is American, and the lieutenant inside the building and his companion open fire on this Panzer Grenadier squad, killing 1 man and putting a pin marker on the squad. And at the conclusion of turn 3, we are obliged to call the game due to some time restraints. So we'll now tally. The Americans are holding the western objective. The Germans are holding the central objective. And the eastern objective is contested, as the lieutenant and his man inside that building are holding off this Panzer Grenadier advance. And so, with objectives equal, it comes down to victory points. The Germans have lost that Panther tank, along with this Panzer Grenadier section. The Americans have lost that Sherman, the transport truck that was lost at the bridge, along with the medium machine gun team and the infantry section out of that building, for a total of 4-2, narrowly tipping it over into a German victory. It's a good game, dicey game, an enjoyable game. We hope you've enjoyed watching it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Hilltop Tabletop.
Right then, let's draw another thing.
Commentary.
Oh, I forgot about the commentary.
Commentary's the most important part,
Well,
man.
I know
This is the product. This is the product we're putting out.